An Irish peated whiskey, worth buying? Let's find out. Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video I'm going to do a review of the Teeling BlackPitts single malt Irish whiskey. It is peated. Now, Ireland isn't known for its peated whiskeys, and when people think of peated Irish whiskeys, they think of Connemara. There are a couple others, but now there's a new kid on the block. In fact, this is sort of the beginning of a wave of a revival of peated whiskeys on Ireland. We're going to see some more over the next couple of years. Really excited to be getting into this whiskey, but before I do, here are my notes. The Teeling BlackPitts Peated single malt Irish whiskey is triple distilled, aged in ex-bourbon and ex-Sauternes casks. It is unchill filtered, has natural color, it's bottled at 46% alcohol by volume, and I paid $75. So this is a new addition to the Teeling core range. It just landed here in California. Still, at the time of this recording, a little challenging to get your hands on. But I got this in San Francisco and then had it shipped to my place here near Sacramento. Now, you may wonder, what is a Sauternes cask? Sauternes is a region in Bordeaux. It's on the sort of southwest of Bordeaux at the end of the Gironde estuary. The area is known for its sweet BOTRYTIZED wines made from Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. Now you may say, what is BOTRYTIZED? Well, a fog comes into the southern Gironde there, and when it goes into the vineyards, it causes something called botrytis cinerea. So what is botrytis cinerea, or just known as botrytis? It is actually a fungus. And you say, ooh, that sounds gross. I know, it does. But what this botrytis does is it extracts moisture from the grapes. And the result is the grapes are shriveled and the sugar is concentrated and there's very little juice left. The result is a wine that is very intensely sweet, but because you're using Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, you also have a wine that has very high acidity and it also has some real nice floral notes. I visited the Sauternes region back in, it was like 2015, if I recall correctly. I went to Chateau Souterant. This is one that I received as a gift. This is from Chateau de Rayen Vignoux. This is a 2001. And since we are now in 2021, it is just about ready to drink. You say, wow, it's 20 years old, it's just about ready to drink? Yes. These are wines that age really well. Now, Sauternes at one time were known as the king of wines and the wine of kings, and were hotly sought after. Now, sweet wines are not as popular as they used to be, and so if you're looking for something that's super rich, super sweet, something for that special occasion, Sauternes are a nice way to go. If you're familiar with Tokaj wines from Hungary, this is a 5 Azu Patricis Tokaj wine. It's very similar in terms of its character of being very honeyed, very fruity, and yet having a lot of acidity. And the result is, because it have high acidity, the sweetness doesn't come across as cloying. Really nice wines to have with foie gras. I know we're all a bunch of foie gras eaters. Or I have with desserts. All right, now back to the whiskey. So on the nose, right? You know, it's a black label name like BlackPitts. You know, put in these sort of stenciled writing. And you're familiar with, you know, peated whiskey. Think of like Black Arts, Ardbeg's Black. And if that's what you have in your mind when you come to this, because of the emphasis on the black, you know, of the label, and you think, wow, this is going to be some big, heavily peated, smoky whiskeys. Well, you would be wrong. In fact, tasted blind, smelled, tasted blind, the peat really comes across as an afterthought. You wouldn't really notice it at first. You really find yourself going, oh, you know what? I think there's some peat in there. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I'm going to say this, it's surprising. I was expecting something with a lot more peat. The Sauternes cask really is forward on this whiskey, and it really is the star player in this show. So on the nose, I get honey, honeysuckle, some tropical notes, a little bit of orange citrus. All of that is totally the Sauternes cask, and that is what is prominent on the nose. A little bit of melon, perhaps a little bit of apple, some vanilla, baking spices, and just a hint of cracked pepper. And that's your peat. All right, on the palate. One more. So on the palate, the nose is confirmed. Very, very sweet up front. Pineapple, tropical notes. Melon, apple, pear. As you exhale, there's a floral note that you pick up. And then there's just this slight cracked pepper about 3/4 of the way back. Reminds you a little bit of Talisker. If you've never had Talisker, check them out. Killer whiskeys. But they have that signature of the black pepper. And that shows up on this about 3/4 of the way back. The whiskey starts off sweet and finishes sweet. Doesn't have a ton of transition in terms of flavors from beginning into the middle and into the finish. Pretty much sweet all the way through. Tropical notes all the way through. Apple, pear, vanilla kicks in about the mid palate. And what lingers is sugar, almost like a powdered sugar character, vanilla, and then just a little bit of that cracked pepper note. It's a non-age statement, don't know how old it is, but it comes across as youthful. Don't quite get the green notes that you would from a young spirit, but it does come across as youthful. But not in something that's like bottled too quickly. It just shows up. This doesn't show a lot of age. It doesn't have a lot of depth, doesn't have a lot of breadth. The pepper is a nice accent. If you didn't have that little pepper note, it would just be sweet upon sweet upon sweet upon sweet, and almost like a one-chord song, sort of unidimensional. It needs something more to it. Do I like it? Yes. I think it's lacking in complexity. I think it needs more age. I think it needs more peat. They have, and then the triple distilling, they have removed, I don't know what the ppms were when they peated the barley, but I think they removed far too much. This needs, to make it a little more interesting, this needs more smoke. It needs more peat. It needs to bump it up a little bit so you get more than just a smidgen of black pepper. It's an all right whiskey. It's an okay whiskey, but there are some Scotch whiskeys that somewhat similar in character that you could pay a lot less. For example, the Cabogan. This reminds me, it's not exact, right? This is actually sweeter than Cabogan, but if you ever had Cabogan, it's very, very similar in terms of the general character and the way in which the peat comes across. So we're $75. If you look at some of the other Teeling's offerings, particularly the small batch, which you can get for under $30, I think the small batch is absolutely killer whiskey for under $30. I think it's overpriced. When you look at some of the peated whiskeys, classic peated whiskeys, Ardbeg 10, or even Ardbeg Corey Vrecken, Udal, those are in this price range. And so I think it's going to have a lot of competition at this price point. And let's go Talisker 10, right? Let's try a Lechik 10-year-old, right? I just think if you like peat and you want peat and you're looking for peat, a presence in a whiskey, this is not the direction you're going to go. You're going to go for these other whiskeys that I just mentioned. That being said, it's a nice whiskey. It's good. I just think it under-delivers. And unfortunately, that's really, really disappointing because I was really hoping for a lot more in this whiskey. Again, It's a good whiskey. It's a nice whiskey. Someone give you a bottle, be happy with it. It's tasty. It's sweet. It just is underwhelming for the price point. Alrighty, if you are one of my subscribers, I want to thank you very much for subscribing. If you've not yet subscribed and you like watching my content, I ask that you would subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when I go live or post a new video. And if you are one of my Patreons, I want to thank you very much for supporting this work. All right, until next time, cheers.